I am live and that folks can see me and that they can hear me. Greetings, greetings. My name is Derrick Weston Brown, and thank you for watching the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. So, once again, my name is Derrick Weston Brown, and welcome to the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. So, for those of you who don't know, the Furious Flower Poetry Center at James Madison University is the nation's oldest academic center dedicated to Black poetry. As you can see, I'm so not used to doing this online stuff already. I'm like, how's my hair and all other type of things. But at any rate, in the 25 years since the first Furious Flower conference, and 15 years of the center's brick and mortar existence, the Furious Flower programs have reached thousands of poets, educators, students, and poetry lovers around the world. So, from groundbreaking media and anthologies to children's creativity camps, which is actually something that's coming up very soon, and I'll be talking about that through my reading. Summer seminars for educators and decade-defining conferences. Furious Flower has impacted literary communities on local, regional, national, international labels. If any of you were able to catch the Furious Flower reading and gathering at the Smithsonian a few months back, that was so awesome. So Furious Flower, and honestly, it has impacted literary communities on local, regional, national, and international levels by creating platforms for Black poets to encounter their readers and for readers to experience and engage with Black literary culture in new and exciting ways. So, as I'm working on this, hopefully I'll have everything set up. So, if folks want to leave comments, they can. So, I'll do my best to follow along, and hopefully, some good folks will be present and you know, and we'll tune in and ask questions. And so, really, I'm going to share some poems. Probably going to read for about 20 to 25 minutes, and hopefully, folks can hear me. Other than that, yeah, I have a lot of different things. So, as I'll do my best not to turn the page too close to the mic and such, but I have a good amount of things that I can read and share. So, the first thing I think I'll start with is talk about myself because that's what I'm supposed to do. But my name is Derrick Weston Brown. I am a poet, writer, educator. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. So shout out to any of my Charlotteans and North Carolinians that are watching right now. And I started my poetry life, you could say, in the libraries of the Charlotte Mecklenburg County Public Library System and just the rich cultural and arts history of Charlotte, North Carolina. So yeah, I really had a great time with all the different things that I've learned and folks from there. And the poetry just was a part of the artistic background that I grew up in. So shout out to the African American Children's Theater of Charlotte, North Carolina. And cool, I've seen a bunch of folks tuning in, so thank you. And what else? Poetry has always been a part of my life. Storytelling above poetry has been the key thing, and poetry, to a degree, has been the way I've been able to tell stories in the best way that I could. What else? What have I published? I'm published in a good number of journals, a good number of anthologies. Back in 2006, I put out my first chapbook called The Unseen. Shout out to the poet Gracious of Life. It's always nerve wracking. Melanie Henderson, who published my chapbook along with the poet Alan King's chapbooks in her apartment, on her computer and such. So my first chapbook was called The Unseen, and then that was followed by my very first collection of poetry. A good number of you have it, Wisdom Teeth, which came out on PM Press, and there was an imprint of PM Press called Busboys and Poets Press, and so this was my first book, April 2011. So proud of it, still in print. Right on. That's awesome. What else have I published? Just last year, actually, in about the same time, about April of 2019, this really great poetry series from Upper Rubber Boot Press. That's a lot to say at one time. Floodgate Poetry Series Volume 5 is actually three chapbooks in one bound volume. So it's myself, Sarah Rebecca Warren, myself, and T.R. Hummer. And so I had a chapbook in here called On All Fronts. And yeah, I got poems all over the place. So many different journals and such, and a few other anthologies. One special anthology, as you can see behind me, I used to be a bookseller, so you know you got to post the product. But definitely, I have to say thank you, of course, to the Furious Flower Poetry Center, and thank you to Lauren K. Alien or Alieni. I always mess your name up, but forgive me. And of course, Dr. Joanne Gavin for just putting together this conference that happens every 10 years. And then, of course, this is the Seeding the Future of African American Poetry, which has so many amazing Black poets in here. Some I call friends, some I call mentors, and comrades, and all sorts of things. So let me put that up here. So I think what I'm going to do now, before I even read some of my poetry, is to open with a little OPP. Some of y'all might know it as other people's poetry. So I always feel it's good to read the poetry of other poets who've influenced you and stuff. And I also jump into some Q&A after a while after my reading portion. But I'm gonna start with an OPP. So also shout out to Kave Khanum. This is a collector's item. This is the Kave Khanum Anthology number 8 from 2003. And I also represent Kave Khanum as well. I went to their summer writing retreat in 2002, 2003, and 2006. So, yep, shout out to those good folks. And the first poem of OPP that I'm going to read is by one of my favorite poets, also in DC, Maryland area, which is where I'm located right now. And she was also part of my grad school class or cohort, as you would say, in the MFA program at American University. And so the poet I'm talking about is Venus Thrash. So if you don't know, you need to know, and you definitely need to pick up her work wherever you can find it. And this is one of my favorite poems. She'll probably kick me because it's an older version of a poem. Because you know, poems sometimes are never finished. So I've seen the finished version of the poem in her book, The Faithful Apple, I do believe. Hopefully I got that right. And this is the version that I like the most. This is called Cutting It Close by Venus Thrash. I come into the place hoping just once the bell over the door won't ring, but it always does. The men hush and scatter. Clippers stop clipping, scissors stop cutting. I'm like Moses parting the Red Sea, only I've got breasts instead of a staff. I'm the only one here who bleeds once a month on purpose. The fellows avoid my eyes. I've come here to shave my head again. Sanders, an afro cloud haloing his head, salt and pepper filling his beard, cuts my hair every 2 weeks for $10 and a $2 tip. He swings the apron up and around, tossing someone else's 2 weeks to the floor, hair falling and clinging to itself in a parting embrace. Sanders leans into my ears and whispers in deep baritone, same thing. As if after 5 years of saying, as close as you can without skinning, I will suddenly change my mind and ask for a part cut into the middle or a Nike insignia sliced into the back, as if after 5 years of him telling me a man should look like a man and a woman should look like a woman, I will say, show you right, and never cut my hair again. Instead, I say, I'm every bit a woman because only a woman can wear it this close. Sanders replies through a wry smile, you right about that. You right about that. Venus Thrash, everybody. Whew, definitely check Venus Thrash out. Shout out to Kavi Khanum, holding it upside down. There we go. And once again, I definitely want to thank for those of you that are just coming in. This is, of course, the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series, which I'm honored to be a part of for this month. So once again, shout out to Lauren K. and Lenny. And of course, Dr. Joanne Gavin and the Furious Flower Poetry Center for having me. Shout out to James Madison University, where the Furious Flower Poetry Center is located. So I'm gonna jump into some more OPP, but it's about time for me to share some of my poems. So I'm pulling from different places. So I think I definitely am going to read a few poems from Wisdom Teeth, which is represented on PM Press, Busboys and Poets Press. So shout out there. If I could figure out how to enter in like the little notes. Oh, here we go. There's the commenting function. So, I'm trying to be a better writer when it comes to shouting out my work. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on here. And I'm going to put the link to where you can purchase Wisdom Teeth through PM Press. I just put that into the chat. So you all should be able to see it. So there we go. All right, I feel good. Yes, level one. All right, so there's so many poems, and this book is basically based on really how I say I grew up as a poet in DC. I moved out into the DC area in 2001 to attend graduate school, the MFA program at American University. And DC, I think I was 26, 25, 26, and DC is where I truly feel like I grew up. And this book is a testament of the lessons I learned. Shout out to the Black Rooster Collective and those writers who, looked out for myself and all sorts of other younger writers and all the open mics, Yogi Records, Bar None, State of the Union, all these different reading series that we could shout out. Of course, Mangoes and It's Your Mug or Brookland Cup of Dreams, Java Head Cafe. All those things I'm going to shout out. But let's just get started and I'll read a couple of poems. So we'll jump into some of the DC poems. So this is called Missed Train. And this is for anybody who's ever been in love and it's felt like you've been taken for a ride. So, Missed Train. I smelled you at the metro stop, tasted you on the yellow, glimpsed you on the green, caught you on the orange, loved you on the red, but lost you on the blue. Now I need a transfer, or at least exit fare, because no one deserves to take such a ride and end up being taken for every dime. Girl, you're a last minute change of plans. A phone call at the God hour that leaves me feeling mortal. So that's my, I guess, DC Metro love poem. And really, small story behind that is the fact that, dang it, if I didn't get lost so much riding the Metro when I first came to DC. So, quiet as kept, one day I rode every line back and forth because I kept getting lost. I rode the red line back and forth, green line back and forth, yellow, blue, orange, just so I could figure it out. So yeah, that's kind of my journey and just kind of how everything goes. But to continue on, if we're going to talk about DC even more, um, I'll talk about Adams Morgan. So a lot of these poems pretty much are from the things that I observed and I saw. And generally, the folks that were with me were the poets Alan W. King, representing Maryland, of course, in DC, and Fred Joyner. And so at one point, we all three of us, you could see us hanging together, whether we were at different readings or even the opening years of Busboys and Poets and stuff. And all of us were out there watching, observing, writing. And so this poem is called Color Commentary. So if anyone who's ever been in Adams Morgan, and you'll hear some names you might find familiar. And if anyone knows how wild Adams Morgan could be, this is one of those moments. Color Commentary. We step out of Trist onto the Adams Morgan streets and into Thursday night fights. The stoop of the storefront pizza shop is a beehive, a sound clash of colors, smells. Garlic competes with cool water, liquor, sweat, and close quarters club funk. We watch this soup bubble burst. Young brother in an iceberg t-shirt and jeans gets into it with a beefy Italian cat. Onlookers drag their feet, circle up, becoming turkey vultures, their necks craning. A lanky brother breaks the circle, reasoning with Iceberg Slim. Nah, son, fuck 'em. Let's go to Tamari's. Plenty young is at Tamari's. Beefaroni wastes no time, lets the word faggot fly. A clay pigeon hurled into the dimension of no takebacks. There's a Greek chorus of, ooh. Iceberg's jaws tighten. Nah, fuck that shit. Hold my pizza. Beefy does the same, leaving his slice of pie in the hands of a buddy waiting. Iceberg, still talking, pulls off his shirt, tosses it to Mr. Peacemaker, launches a wide arcing swing. Beefaroni pauses, readies himself, and spills into Iceberg like paint. They are Cervantes windmills on concrete. Their arms are Jackson Pollock's brushstrokes. Iceberg is an erupting bass line studded by Beefy's Timberland beat patterns. Iceberg grabs a handful of shirt and guards his head, but no matter. Beefy's fists dig through his ribs like topsoil. We watch disappointed. It's Rocky and Apollo Creed all over again. Represent for the brothers, someone yells, but the 10 count is on, and Iceberg can't hear over Beefaroni beating his djembe body. A bouncer from a club nearby pulls them apart. Beefy springs up, huffing. His eyes are strobes dancing around the circle of brothers. His smirk, an invitation for more. He grabs his pizza and strolls down the block. Maybe later he'll cool his stinging knuckles with the victory beer his buddies will buy him. Iceberg is led away by his crew who pelt him with hailstone insults. Man, bring your bitch ass on. You let that white boy beat you? The fuck? I feel cheated, says Yao. He definitely ain't from this area, Alan reasons. We just stole him off top. No talking. Did you see that dip spin move white boy put on that dude? The laughter, a tremor in Fred's body. Ooh, that was classic. Around us, post-fight analysis emerge and commence. Onlookers morph into Larry Merchant and George Foreman, comparing fight stats, punches thrown and landed. We disperse, disappointed at the undercard, but not quite ready for the main event. So, color commentary. So, a lot of different poems in here. Just some quick ones. I'm also a fan of haiku and just short forms. So, here's one called What It's Like to Date in DC for Those Who Haven't, after Patricia Smith and Roshni Kotari. What it's like to date in DC for those who haven't, it's like having a mouthful of prayers when all you're looking for is that one amen. So that's it. Really short poems. Other sections that I have, and I definitely have to share a few more. I am, of course, like many folks, a major fan of the Toni Morrison. And while I was in graduate school, we had a course called Great Authors, and so we read a hunk of Toni Morrison's work. So shout out to Professor Keith Leonard at American University, who really introduced me to Toni Morrison's beloved and had us explore it in such a way that this series of poems came to mind. So I've been writing these poems for about more than 15 years, and they're based on the voices of the Sweet Home Men from the plantation Sweet Home in Toni Morrison's Beloved. And so I've been writing in the voices, persona poems of all these different characters, from Hallie to Sixo to Paul D to Paul F. And actually, the poet Ramika Bingham, shout out to Ramika Bingham, when I shared the series with her, she said, "Oh, you shouldn't just do the Pauls, and you shouldn't just do the black characters on this plantation." She said, "Sweet Home Man, you should include all the male characters." So I still have to write poems in the voice of school teacher. I still have to write poems in the voices of school teachers' sons. I have a poem in the voice of Brother Tree. Then there's also the rooster that has that weird deformed clawed foot. Oh man, I got a lot to work on. But this is the first piece I ever wrote for the Sweet Home Men series, dedicated to Toni Morrison, who I wish had even known of the poems at that time. But, hopefully she can hear them now. So this is called 30 Mile Woman, Sixo Song. I ask the wind for guidance. In this space, the trees know me now. Earth is still earth, but black-eyed Susans do not differ so much from African violets. They want me to speak the Tubob talk. Stop the dancing so I may not find myself. When I am lost, you find me. Gather me when I am pieces. Gather me. Love the pieces that I am. Give me back to me in all the right order, friend of my mind. I have asked permission of all creation to let us meet. Time is your hard breath in the field. I move when the wind wills it. We have tomorrow and today. 30 Mile Woman, meet me at the crossroads. So that's just one of several pieces from Wisdom Teeth. And I think at this point, the Sweet Home Men poems, they're still growing. There's some longer pieces in the book. They're really awesome. I have poems in the voice of Paul D. I have a haiku in the voice of Hallie. I have a haiku in the voice of actually Setha. And of course, there's Paul D with his poem called All He Can. And so, thank you so much for the time. If you're just joining in again, welcome to the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. So shout out again to Lauren Kaoline for allowing me to be a part of this series, and definitely shout out to the Furious Flower Poetry Center, and of course to Dr. Joanne Gavin for, building all of this. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate this series. So, like I said, if you just joined me, I'm Derrick Weston Brown. Behind me, as you can see, there's some other books, because I also believe in OPP, or other people's poetry. So in the same time I'm reading my work, I also want to read other folks' work. So let us reach back here. And the next book I have is by the poet Terry Ellen Cross Davis, who, if you didn't know, also, I have to say, shout out to the MFA program of American University, especially between 2001 and 2004 and 5, because there was so many amazing Black poets in that cohort. Terry Ellen Cross Davis, Venus Thrash, Cedric Tillman, Paulette Beat, Sean Frazier, so many amazing writers that were in that cohort and in that group. And so it was so awesome. And a good chunk of us also, Ebony Golden as well. All of us were a part of Kave Kanam as well. And it also didn't hurt that, at least on my final year, one of the founders of Kave Kanam, Cornelius Edie, shout out to him, joined the MFA program staff at American University. And he was also, along with Professor Keith Leonard, they were the folks that were over my thesis, which turned out to be wisdom teeth. So shout out to y'all too, and shout out to American University. Drinking some water. You can't take the you can take the guy out the South, but you can't take the South out the guy in my mason jar. And so Haint by Terry Ellen Cross Davis. Shout out to Hayes Davis, her husband and partner in crime. I tell you, they always give me hope, being that they are two poets who live and love together and write together and have two brilliant children as well. And so, without further ado, I'm going to read Terry Ellen Cross's Why Persephone Should Be a Black Name. Why Persephone should be a black name. Crazed with loneliness, edgy, sharp like pale skin, Hades breaks the earth apart for want of his own piece of sun. The mother, Demeter, all raging heartbreak, bares her canine teeth, grieving bosom to anyone with eyes, to everyone's eyes. Persephone in a strange land, strange man, stranger hands, finds her chaste determination wrestling a new hunger, until the girl is overcome and finds solace, sucking the earthy pulp of 6 pomegranate seeds. A mother's streaked pleas finally clears the path home for her only child. Persephone rises, walks this path of dried tears, meets her mother, a changed woman. But even a mother's embrace has a time limit. Persephone rises, 6 months for her 6 seeds of solace. For this she must return to the man whose eyes welled with a need she could never fill. Translation. What I'm saying though, some crazed dude rises from nowhere and grabs Persephone right out of her mama's arms. Now her mom's Demeter is pissed off more than a little bit, but ain't nobody got time for her sob stories, right? So she got to negotiate, ain't that some shit, with her daughter's kidnapper. Persephone, this poor child, she holding out as long as she can, hungrier than a moon. And finally, she eats 6 of these seeds. Meanwhile, her mom's is working a deal, not sure if money changed hands, and fixes it so that Persephone can come back home. But those 6 seeds haunting her ass. And it turns out, just for those damn seeds, she got to stay for half the damn year in some place she never asked to be. Haint, Terry Ellen Cross Davis. So, shout out there. Just checking the time and such. And I don't know. I think if anything, we're gonna have a little bit of a Q&A time in a little bit. So just stick with me. I'm gonna read a few more poems, definitely from myself, and then some more OPP and such. And so I'm a big fan, of course. Growing up in the library and have two aunts that were librarians and two grandmothers that were elementary school teachers. Reading was definitely fundamental in my life. I'm a big comic book person. I collect a lot of graphic novels and comics. If you see behind me back there, you can see the little Marvel Black Panther collection book. So yeah, I am very much a black nerd and proud of it, but also a lover of fantasy and all sorts of things. And so I have a poem which is based on and talks about pretty much what went down during the time when Black Panther just kind of like exploded into everyone's consciousness, and everybody wanted to go to Wakanda. But as you know, there was also a time where people were a little salty about Black Panther. People had lots to say about it. And so I happened to, like a lot of poets do, I eavesdrop, as my students say, Mr. Brown, you be ear hustling, which I do. So when I hear something, if I can find a way to write it down, I will definitely do my best to write that down. So let's see what's going on with the comments. All right. Oh, hey, y'all. Good to see all y'all on here. So this is called Bruh, or When Brothers Debate Black Panther in a Safeway Parking Lot, a found, overheard poem. Hyattsville, Maryland, February 2018. Bruh number one. But they corny though. Ain't never wore any African gear in their life. Bougie asses out here shopping to dress up for a movie. This joint created by two white dudes. Marvel getting all your money. Head wraps and shit. It's sad seeing people get all excited for a movie. They ain't been to Africa. They ain't going. Kids dressing up. This cosplay shit is out of control. Brother number two. For real? Look, ain't nobody say shit when you wearing your little personalized skins jersey or your Kirk Cousins jersey to work after the game, or when you playing Madden at home, ain't ran it down since Pop Warner and you talking about the team like you on the roster. Talking about we gonna smash y'all next week. Y'all got lucky this week because we got some injured players. Man, you cosplay every season. Who on the league? Oh, you mad? Oh, you quiet now. Where's your money go? Damn, man, just let the people have fun. Oh, Grinch ass. For real, you still mad. Because mom wouldn't buy you that Lion O Sword of Omens joint for you from Lionel Toy Warehouse back in the day. Let the people have some fun. Let them be all happy and excited. Let them jump up and down like you be doing in front of the TV. Run number two. Now I'm just saying. All right. So thank you. That was Bruh, or When Brothers Debate Black Panther in the Safeway Parking Lot. So one thing about poetry, I think I like a good amount of humor. You balance the heavy, with the light. And as I think about all the things that are just going on in general, yeah, even in the midst of all that's going on, in some cases you can find humor about that. But sometimes the laughter is also the kind of laughing to keep from crying, or the laughter to keep from screaming, or sometimes the screaming actually helps. So this next piece I'm going to share with you, the title, once again, is probably longer than the poem itself. And so this is called The Moment When I Meet My New Best Friend Waiting at Line at the ATM while watching a masked white woman cross to the other side of the street to avoid a masked white man. After bearing witness to this miracle of social distancing together, our heads turning in tandem like line judges in a tennis game, my new best friend, dreadlocks double the length of my own, meets my wide-eyed gaze and says, "Guess we all black today." And we laugh behind masked mouths, our eyes tight, and the tears, oh, the tears, a benediction of whoo. So yeah, these things happen. So yeah, and even in the midst of all this, and so that piece was written in April, even before, whoo, everything, even before everything. So to continue on, um, as I seem to look at what's going on with folks and such, and you have people out here now asking questions like, I never saw this happen before. Where is this coming from? And I think of the weight of history and America and black people's existence in it in their fight. And I think of poems like this, especially when it's about, I don't know, the South and all sorts of things. So this is called Recall. And this one actually was in Bayou Magazine. So shout out to Bayou Magazine out of New Orleans. And shout out to the editor. Hold on, poetry editor, because I don't want to kick me. Kelly Harris, representing Copy Economy, also for checking the poem out and being like, this is one that has to go. Also, shout out to Jarvis DeBerry as well. Recall. Recall, your homegirl told you about the summer she and her mother were driving through the South and found themselves on a road flanked by cotton fields, white downy borders of micro mini cumulus clouds, and how northern though they were, they couldn't help themselves because they'd never seen or much less touched real cotton, and how they pulled over, parked, and got out of the car in the hot mouth heat of August and picked some bowls. And she told you how eerily quiet it was at that moment. No one on the road for the minutes that they picked, and how the cicada song that first sounded like a car sounded like an electric whisper, but then swelled in alarm. And she told you how they got in the car with 4 handfuls of cotton between them and marveled at the scratch and soft and seed between their fingers. And after she finished the story, you said, y'all lucky some white folks didn't see you picking and scream out, I told you their affinity for servitude is inherent. You and your mom almost cost us the game. Next time, do your picking at night. And you and your homegirl winced, laughed, winced, with August sitting heavy in your chest. So that's recall. So based on a true story of a friend of mine, we went to Hampton University together. Shout out HBCUs, and she was from Jersey and hadn't really been down south. But then on her way down south, she and her mother saw a cotton field and were like, "Oh my God, let's pick some cotton." And I just think about that, like, "Oh wow, really? That's what you wanted to do?" But hey, it is what it is, and those are the experiences that I think we think of and see. Mm. Cotton will tear your fingers up. You're right. It definitely will. You know. So I'm gonna read a few more poems, because I know I've got 25 to 30 minutes, and then I'll move into some Q&A. So as the Q&A works, I'll be taking a look to see just what you all are putting in the chat, and I'll answer questions. And I also have some other questions that I could ask. So as I read a few more poems, Lord, I got a lot of poems. Um, I'll just ask you to think of some questions that you would like to ask. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out that Furious Flower, if you did not know, has always, for a good amount of time, they've been holding this summer writing camp. And this year it's going to be the Furious Flower Virtual Creativity Camp. And you should definitely check that out. So it's going to be virtual, so it's not gone. And details, you can find them at jmu.edu /furious flower slash. And what I'll do is just to make sure that you all see that, I'm going to go ahead and put that right there in the chat. So definitely for any of you young folks that are looking to get down with creative writing, definitely check out this link that I just put up. And yeah, for your young writers who are just like, I got to get out the house, but you're like, look, as far as you can go is the porch or the screened in, whatever. But your writing is going to be what's going to take you out the house on this day. So once again, thank you for those of y'all that are jumping in. Once again, welcome to the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. My name is Derrick Weston Brown. Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Joanne Gavin and Lauren, for having me to take part in this month. So I'm such a like a lot of poets and a lot of people, just love reading. So I'm definitely a major comic book head, and I love manga and such. And so I love the cover of this because this is the six-tailed fox. For those of y'all that know, they're also known as the kitsune, which is the trickster fox. These foxes can change form and stuff. We got any Naruto heads out there. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. But I love this piece. And I love this book with all of the writings, and I was able to put in some newer poems. So I wouldn't be remiss if I shout out my mom, who's in Charlotte, North Carolina right now, who has clients, so she can't actually watch right now, but she'll watch later. And here's some poems. And this is from the section of On Our Fronts called Cold Front. And this poem is At the VA, and this is for my dad, Bernard Lee Brown Jr., veteran of Vietnam, something we didn't necessarily talk about often, but I know the effects because I think that's definitely what shortened his life in relation to Agent Orange and post-traumatic stress disorder, and generally being a black man in general, or black person in America. So this is called At the VA, and this is written during the last few years of his life. All right, hey there, I see some Charlotte, North Carolina folks out there. Yes, stand up, Queen City. All right, At the VA. The man who shares a room with my father titters and jerks under the covers of his bed. His hair is wet and silver corn silk slivers against the pillow. He dances under those sheets like a thick cut piece of bacon on a skillet lacquered with grease. He's calling for his mama. This scares me, and I watch him from my chair where I sit with Daddy. Daddy barely notices. I'm scratching the back of his scalp because his hands don't work. I turn away from the bed and from the man who moans, cover me, And I don't know if this is meant for the mother or the platoon he keens for as his dream caught legs churn his sheets into white cloth froth. I focus on my daddy's scalp and make this lotioning ritual my sole duty. I watch his eyes close, his creased brow go smooth. This is the way I bring daddy home from war. So that's one of the pieces uh, from On All Fronts. I'm also a fan of the haiku, and I'm gonna read a few of these. So these are called the Risk It All Senryu Haiku series. So look, people have various ways that they work the haiku. Mary Baraka had the Loku. Sonia Sanchez had the Sonku. Shout out to Dr. Tony Medina of Howard University for his Tonku. At one point, I had Brownku. I tried my best, to mix in my styles and traditions, and I'm a big fan of the haiku and such. And so this is called the Risk It All Senryu Haiku series. So operative word is Thai. We'll keep it at that. This is called Biscayne Drive Senryu, or Thaku. Oshun at the light grants me a side eye in her honey-colored jag. 2. Monday Airport Senryu. TSA agent lifts my locks with gentle hands, her black eyes smiling. O'Hare Airport Senryu. Tattooed crown peeking out below the hem of the flight attendant's skirt. Thaku number 4. Accidental thigh graze from platonic hug, my hand aflame. Thaku number 2. Her hand alight on my thigh. During conversation, a laugh. Her slight squeeze, punctuation. Thaku number 1. You might want to, if you got some young people around here, you might want to get them out the room for this one. Thank you. Hey, I'm saying I've been, a lot of us are in, so sharing poems is how we do it. So Thaku number 1. Thighs caress my ears, the softest canyon ever. A river runs through it. Glad my mama is not on this live feed right now. So anyway, there's that. All right. And so I'll shift from there to some other haiku, and we'll be moving into another little area, and I will be wrapping up my poems. I may read maybe this little series and maybe 2 more. So again, this is, of course, the Floodgate Poetry Series through Upper Rubber Boot Books. Trying to be the person to shout out and remember to mark it. I'm putting the link to the book here in the chat once again to Upper Rubber Boot Books, the Floodgate Poetry Series. And so this is a series of Senryu called the Dark Matter Senryu series. 3 Senryu on the occasion of Richard Wright's 106th birthday. So shout out to the Hurston Wright Foundation. They do a celebration for Richard Wright many times, and I've had a time to be able to participate for a celebration of Richard Wright and Zora Neale Hurston. So here we go. 3 Senryu on the occasion of Richard Wright's 106th birthday. Opening Black Boy, the worn brown pages sigh, just like a fall wind. 2. Opening Black Boy, the brown yellowed pages sigh, like my father. 3. The news of his death, a cold gust, and Baldwin pulls tight his scarf. Ghosts of old limb, Senryu, a nod to Sterling Brown. Lone black man, 4 patrol cars, they don't come by twos. Home, Senryu. Anxious nights, a lullaby for black lives. Hey, I'm home. Thank you. So again, pieces from Floodgate Poetry Series from my chapbook on all fronts. And so once again, thank you all for listening. So if you are, again, just jumping in, this is, of course, the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. And so thank you very much to the Furious Flower Poetry Center at James Madison University for having me. And I'm going to share a few, maybe one more new poem. And yeah, let's see what you think before we go into the Q&A, because I know we have a short amount of time. So shout out to the poet Alan King, who told me about Google Keep. As far as me, I used to be a notepad person. I still am, but when it comes to writing things down, the Google Keep option has notes, and so it's always awesome and always good. So I'm about to share this piece. Um, During the month of April, which a lot of poets do, NaPoWriMo, National Poetry Writing Month, where they do 30 for 30. So they write 30 poems for 30 days. Well, so a poem a day for 30 days. And so, being that, the world dealing with COVID and then having to work with being shut in, this is a poem called What the Sun Said to Me When I Appeared for Our Daily Meeting After Being Inside Half the Day for Zoom meetings. There you are, my little brown circuit, you fuel cell of bone, stardust, and ancestry. Let me get a look at you. Bring your face closer. Turn around. Let me drink you in. Got your outside clothes on, huh? Come on, love. Sit with me and breathe. Feels good, huh? My beaming smile breaking bread in the echo of these quiet streets. No, don't explain a damn thing, baby. Don't want to talk? Fine. You want to pray? Fine. Go on, cry, scream, spit, curse, boil over. I'll be over here, my downcast child. Just let me look at you. You still a wonder. You still someone's dream, and your ancestors' wild gasp when they witness you walking in their unlived future. Go on, get them breaths in. Yeah, fuck screen time. I missed you. Stay with me as long as you want. You better quit peeking out that window when you see me the next time and come on out. Mask on or off. Come on and get some of this free wattage love on the house. So, yep, telling you, poems and sun, and my building actually has a roof deck, a very small one, and it's a very small apartment building. So all of us in the building, we are artists, so we have ways in which we can actually get together. We have times where we can go onto the roof deck separately, so to practice, social distancing and stuff. So that's just one of the poems. And let's see, last one. This is the last one before I get to the Q&A, and this piece is also kind of connected to um, quarantining and stuff. And I have to say, even now, as places are moving to phase one or phase two, I'm still taking my good sweet time on how I'm gonna add myself back to the world, especially as safety goes, with all the things that are out there, those that are microscopic and just springing up out there, and those things that have been existing for a while. And I'll leave it at that. So this is called When You're the Shut-In. Curse my ego. Curse the coin box and capitalist in my blood. Curse the assembly line in my head. Curse the capital R in rent. Curse the closeness of rent to rend, reminding me that I am low income and assets only. And curse those generations of economic dominoes assembled so long ago, so close to falling on all of us, even on this beautiful day when the trees and the sun speak freedom from my window. Praise the phone call, the FaceTime, the WhatsApp. Praise that goddamn Zoom. Praise the kindness of the chef who sends meals and gloved hands to poets and painters and dancers and builders. Praise those who think of artists and all of us as vulnerable and hungering for touch, as rich as the gravy in this meal I won't refuse. Praise the compassion we house inside of us like a nearly forgotten song. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this song that rises like the newly healed, stumbling for remembered steps. Thank you is every lyric I place on top of every tune I hear these days, replacing the panic, fear, and self loathing etched into algorithms. Praise to every tweet or text that roars proof of life, one more who has escaped the body bag of the day. Praise to the finished meal and the hands that prepared it and the hands that buried someone today. Praise the cough that is nothing more than pollen's irritants. Praise uncut beards, no makeup, tears. Praise the whole of us pulling the rest of us from the ledge, shut in but not shuttered. Oh, praise the stranger neighbor who we now share sentences with at safe distances. Praise the laughing eyes behind homemade masks of Ankara patterns and YouTube tutored threading. Thank yous all around until the day we walk the streets holding bare hands until the tendons in our fingers cramp when we're finally off that shut in list. Praise the thrice wiped, foil wrapped plate, the check ins on our strong friends, stubborn parents, even the exes who remember we all were once cordial. We in here. All right. Thank you so very much. I see a note from the poet Alan King. He's like, Derek, you got some pieces I haven't heard before. You've been busy. Of course, man. I can't show you all my secret stash, as far as poems are concerned. Um, so let's see. Q&A. We got a little bit of time. So if anyone has any questions, I'm gonna keep my eye on the chat. And yeah, I'm welcoming any questions. But let's see. I'll share. Well, the one question is, how did you first hear about Furious Flower? Um, Dr. Tony Medina at Howard University. After getting my MFA in 2004 from in grad school at American University, I was still very much a part of out in DC, going to different readings and stuff, and had a good collection of friends. And Tony Medina had arrived um, at Howard, I think around 2003, 2004. And so he opened his class up to all of these writers. So you had the Howard students that were there to take the class to get credit. But then he let other folks, writers, community writers, come in and sit in on his class. And then after his class ended, we would have a workshop after the workshop where we would write and do a whole bunch of different types of things. And so he told us about the Furious Flower Conference and suggested that all of us go up there and check it out. And so I actually rode up to the Furious Flower Conference with the poet Brandon Johnson and John Murillo, believe it or not. So small world. And that was such a great time. I met Sonia Sanchez for the first time, read in a group cipher, met all sorts of writers who I had literary crushes on and literal crushes on, but that's another story. And anyway, it was a good time. And I missed the 2014 Furious Flower because it happens every 10 years, but I will not miss the 2024 version as well. And so the question was, talk about your love for haiku, what attracts you to the form. Um, Honestly, I would say I've always had, and I gotta see another question. I would have to say, with haiku, just like Sonia Sanchez said in several interviews, that when she found haiku, she found herself. And as much as I love to tell a story, I also love the brevity of the haiku. I also am also practicing Buddhist. And so, not to say that those two are related, but when it comes to Eastern philosophy, and also when I think of the immediacy of language and imagery, the haiku is one of those things that really works. Two of the major haiku writers, I mean, aside from, Basho, some of the folks who I sometimes even cringe about sending my haikus to because they're so knowledgeable about it, but it's helpful when they are Joel Diaz Porter, aka DJ Renegade, master haiku writer, and then also Leonard D. Moore, North Carolina representing. And he is a haiku master. In 2007, I attended the Haiku North America conference, and that was so awesome to learn more about the form and to hear Kalamu Yasalam talk about his use of the haiku, and Sonia Sanchez talk about her use of the haiku and how, no, we're not Japanese, but how do you incorporate what you need to say and your culture within another cultural piece of art? So that's how I love the haiku, and I go back to it sometimes when the words are short. Victoria Faison wrote, if you've read Baker's graphic novel on Nat Turner, what do you think too? What is your submission publishing mantra? How do you submit poems and how do you decide where? Thanks for sharing. Love your work. I have not read Baker's graphic. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. Baker. Yes, I have read yeah, Nat Turner's Revolt. Sorry, Baker, I forget his first name. That graphic novel is amazing. I always think about the image of the child with I think young Nat Turner when he's yelling like "run" to his father. Um, I really think it's amazing. I really think it actually hits harder with the imagery than the Confessions of Nat Turner. But graphic novels for me, those are really hidden, especially when it comes to visuals. If I can talk about other graphic novels really quick, of course, there's Destroyer by the brother that wrote Slapboxing with Jesus, Laval, Victor Laval. I love that retelling and continuing of the Frankenstein story. So graphic novels are it for me. What is your submission publishing mantra? Um, don't take it personally. That's one of the things. And I also have up on my wall a couple of notes from a talk with Rita Dove, where it says your audience will find you. So I think about that. Publishing, I still take some things personally, but I say keep submitting your poems out there. And it says, how do you submit poems and how do you decide where? I learned this little trick from Alan King, which is all the writers that I like and their work that I like, that I feel like my work kind of follows. I see where they got their work published, and I'm like, let me see if I can slip some poems over there and such. And then also just checking out places and reading and seeing, what they're looking for and that type of thing. I'm happy to say in my life now, I guess you could say now I'm older, I'm grown now. People are asking for work now, so that's cool. But I still send work out, even with my students at Duke Ellington School of the Arts. I have them submit work to like journals, high school journals, but then also grown folk journals, and I also submit as well. So there's that. Alan King asks, how does your environment influence your work? People watching, weather forecast. I think that's a joke, Alan King, because I always say I know when the rain's coming. And he teases me because he's like, "Yeah, look up at the sky. The clouds are coming in." Um, I've always been one who loves a good story, and I also understand the power of listening and sometimes being quiet, and you'll hear more if you just shut your mouth. I'm an only child, so I also had to entertain myself, but I would also listen and come up with stories and such. And sometimes, it's hearing an errant comment that's made and just being like, whoa, what was that? And then trying to listen in a little bit more. Also, it could be from things that I read, things that I see. And especially just the randomness of conversations that happen when people aren't even really thinking about that anyone else is around. So anytime you see somebody loud talking with their cell phone, I'm usually sitting back like, what's being said? And sometimes just people watching helps as well. My environment, um, it could be food, it could be family. Again, for me, it's always about the story. So that's the thing. Um, so any other questions? Oh, can you talk about how teaching influences your own approach to writing? That's a great question because I feel like I teach so many different ages and teach different, not just creative writing, but also um, composition and literature. And so when I was younger, I used to complain about why do I have to adjust the way that I write to fit these formats for like scholarly papers or for fiction and things like that. But what I realized was, and one of my teachers who I can't remember, he often said, look, I can't teach you to be a better writer. You already have that within you. I can give you things that have helped me become a better writer, but I can provide you with the resources to help yourself to become a better writer in your own ideas and how to keep your voice. So it doesn't get super polished out of the way. You don't sound too super scholarly or just totally lost. It's a way where your voice is always present. So I think that's one of the things. Um, let's see. Any other questions? Let's see. What was your most dramatic encounter with a poem? Um, Man, I think one of my most dramatic encounters, and I think about humor, and that would be, of course, man, Shel Silverstein was my main man. So when I found out that poetry could be funny and that there were illustrations and stuff, oh my gosh, you couldn't tell me anything. So shout out to my mom and also to my aunt, Monet Wallace, who introduced me to so many books. So, wow, hopefully it took me a while to get everything together, but we're coming up on the end of the Furious Flower Facebook Live series reading. And let's see, you referenced some Harlem Renaissance poets and writers. What would you name the next Renaissance? Think fast. Um, oh, good gracious. You know what? I think I call them the struck match poets. You talking about think fast, the struck match poets, because the immediacy of language, you can see it now. It's like, let's go. So that's what I would call this next renaissance, the struck match poets. So there we go. Um, so again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to the Furious Flower Center. And I need to let you know that the next Furious Flower reading series, the next reader will be the awesome Rachel Eliza Griffiths on June 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And her book just came out, like literally fresh off the presses. I think she had a virtual release 2 days ago or even yesterday. So definitely tune in and check it out. So without further ado, thank you to everyone who's been watching. I really appreciate this. I had such a fun time. Whoever, Struck Match Poets, remember, if you're going to send that out, say Derrick Weston Brown came up with the Struck Match movement, that type of thing. But thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to the Furious Flower Poetry Center at James Madison. Please purchase Seeding the Future of American Poetry, the anthology for Furious Flower that just recently came out. All the other poets I didn't get to. Wisdom Teeth, that's my book. Of course, Floodgates, Volume 5. Terry Cross Davis, Alvin Conham, shout out to Vona, DC, hey Fred, hey Rachel, everybody, thank you so much for this opportunity. You have no idea how much this meant to me to be out and reading within this community, virtual or otherwise. So without further ado, peace and thank you once again to the Furious Flower Poetry Center. I'm Derrick Weston Brown. You all take care.